Okay, we're going to the little board here. Anybody who's been a fan of my channel for longer than a month and a half knew this was coming, right? So I did the video on save percentages and I see Skorodenski and I'm like, right, I forgot about him. I remember when I was collecting cards in the mid 80s and I didn't pay attention to stats as much when I was 12 as I do now. So the Skorodenski card comes up and he's this really cool kind of mask on him. And it's like save percentage leader. And I'm like, wow, that's so weird. Because, yeah, that was right after. Skorodenski was right after Melanson had been the save percentage leader for 2 years. And Huron the year before that. St. Croix the year before that. Like, it was weird. Save percentage leaders, it was strange. But you never saw him before. And you didn't. If by today's standards, I'm sure that people would have followed him and talked about him. But back then, it was sort of like he came out of nowhere. And then he went back. Now, he did share an award for best goalie, best save percentage, or best goals. I think it was best goals against in the American Hockey League with Bob Jancic. Bob Jancic would go on to have a decent couple of years for the LA Kings, and that's an interesting name. 81-82, he plays his first game. He plays one game, one loss, allows 5 goals, has an .833 save percentage in that loss. Now, this is in the era where save percentage is not fantastic, so that's forgivable. The entire 82-83 season he spends in the minors, he plays 13 games. He's 3-6, 4.97 goals against, and .842 save percentage. But in that season, he receives a 20-game suspension for shoving a referee. He kind of threw him up against the glass. I don't know. I don't think there's any footage of it, but it sounds like Mr. Skorodenski, when he was going in for a fight, if you got in his way, yeah, he might let you know that you're in his way. 83-84. 33 games played, 8 wins, 21 losses, 3 ties. I'm used to saying overtime losses. It was 3 ties. 5.15 goals against and an .840 save percentage. There's no indication to this point. Either in games played, wins, goals against, save percentage, nothing. There's no indication that this guy who's undrafted, unheralded, is going to do much of anything at this stage of the game. And yet, 84-85, he ends up being the backup. Now, why was he the backup? So I looked into this. 83-84, the goaltenders for the Chicago Blackhawks were Murray Bannerman, Tony Esposito, and Bob Jancic. So what happened was simple. Jancic ends up going to the Kings. He'd play over 50 games with the Kings the next year. Esposito retires because he was lousy that last year in Chicago. It was ugly. His numbers are poor, really poor. Bannerman, not a bad starter, not a great starter, middle of the road. And so Skorodenski gets in there by default. And Homer Simpson will tell you those are the 2 greatest words in the English language. Now, he plays 27 games. He gets 11 wins, 9 losses, 3 ties, 3.22 goals against, and then .903 save percentage, which leads the league. Now, what's interesting is this. He hadn't had a winning record in the American League. He never has an American League winning record until after his NHL career is over. So he has a winning record in the NHL. He has the best save percentage of his career in the NHL. There's something that I've said, and this is true. There are certain goalies that play better in the National Hockey League than they do in the American League, and there are some who play great in the American League, get to the NHL, and they just can't do anything when they get there. 85-86, Warren Skorodenski, big year. No. The interesting thing is, because I have a bunch of books and magazines and stuff like this, I have an 86 yearbook. Now, in the 86 yearbook, where they talk about, Bob Pulford coming in as coach. Pulley's coaching presence lifts Hawk hopes, meaning they weren't very good the year before. And they mention in here, starter, Bannerman, backup, Skorodenski. First string goalie, Murray Bannerman, is backed up by Warren Skorodenski, who compiled the league's best save percentage, .903, last year. So what happened? Clearly, he didn't have a good camp. He didn't have a good game. The first game he played, he allowed 6 goals. .867 save percentage tells me they allowed a lot of shots. The Blackhawks were insanely bad at points in the 80s. Really bad. So they added Bob Sauve on October 15th of 1985. Sauve, who would go on to have a pretty solid save percentage himself. In fact, he would be In the 1986-87 season, Sauvé posts an .894 save percentage, which is number 2 in the entire NHL. And then he'd go to New Jersey for the last 2 years of his career. So with that acquisition and that move towards Bannerman and Sauvé, which pretty solid tandem for the time, Skorodenski ends up in the minors. So what does he do in the American League? 11, 14, and 2 in 32 games, 3.81 goals against, .872 save percentage. And again, as I talked about this earlier, save percentages are down overall, but that's not encouraging after the .903 he put up in the NHL the year before. 86-87, again, he plays 32 games, 12, 15, and 3, 4.00 goals against, still an .872 save percentage. Now, if your save percentage stays the same, but your goals against average goes up, it means you face more shots. So he's probably behind a shooting gallery here. In the 86-87 season, he plays 3 games for the Hawks that season. 1 win, 1 tie, 2.71 goals against, .922 save percentage. So when people talk about a goaltender who's played like a small number of games, and they're like, he puts up really good numbers, this is the kind of story I think of. Is guys like this who come in and they put up good numbers, and it looks like, yeah, they probably should be at the NHL level, but for whatever reason it doesn't happen. 87-88, he goes to Edmonton. And if you're a goaltender with a bit of a problem with the save percentage, you don't want to go to Edmonton in the 80s. 3 games, no record, but he had a 6.89 goals against average in the 61 minutes he played, .720 save percentage. So he was put into 3 games. There's no wins or losses, so clearly he was put into 3 games as the backup when the Oilers had decided we're not playing any defense tonight, and they're already done. So Fuhr is basically like, I'm finished for the night, and he comes out, and this poor guy is thrown in just to the Wolves. He plays in the American League that year as well. He plays 46 games, which is a career high for him. 25 wins, 15 losses, 5 ties, 3.74 goals against, .882 save percentage. Those are respectable. 88-89, he's starting to get tired, it seems, of being in the American League. 25 games played, 11 wins, 13 losses, 1 tie, 4.45 goals against, .865 save percentage. So the goals against average goes up, save percentage goes down. And either through, and I couldn't find anything on this, either through him deciding to leave the team or whatever it was, he ends up joining the Canadian national team and played 3 years for them. Now, he played 20-some games, 40 games in 90, and then only 2 games in 90 in the 90-91 season before announcing his retirement. He's a guy who played 35 games, had 12 wins, 11 losses, and 4 ties. So he ends up with a plus .500 record. Pretty good considering at the American League level, he struggled with a winning record due to the teams he's on more than anything, I'm guessing. 3.46 goals against and an .896 save percentage at the NHL level, which is more than respectable for the time. In fact, Grant Fuhr's career save percentage is .887. So when we talk about saves and shots faced and all this, Skorodenski came out of this pretty well. And just as a final mention in this video, February 20th, 1985, 4 minutes into the game, he overextended and had a groin injury. He played the last 56 minutes of the game. The trainer had to come out on the ice and check on him 3 times, but he played the rest of the game. So there you go, throwing referees into the glass, playing with a groin injury. The dude's a warrior, only plays 35 games, but he's a trivia answer for the 84-85 season. Who led the league in save percentage? Well, it was this guy named Warren who only played 27 games, but that qualifies for the award. So there you go. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. And this was kind of a fun thing to do. Hope you guys enjoyed it too. I'll talk to you again soon.